Good morning, and welcome to the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Reverend Deborah Kerr, and whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your race, your gender, whomever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are new to this community, I invite you to introduce yourself in the chat box. There should be a link there, and that'll help you find more information about us. You might like to know about our Inquirers series, gatherings that take place online on Sunday at noon. Anyone, including members, who would like to learn more about ERUUF is welcome in those sessions. Information will appear on your screen at the end of the service. And here's something that I hope will really be fun, because we could use some fun, couldn't we? Yes, we could. Everyone is invited this Thursday morning at 11 o'clock for 1 hour online to an ERUUF Thanksgiving Gratitude Hour. Come join me and Stacy Grove and Pam DeLavore and Jacqueline. We are going to listen to some of the wonderful performances from recent online cafe ERUUFs, and we are going to have a chance to share what we are grateful for. We might tell a few jokes. We might have a few inspiring quotes, and I'm pretty sure at some point we are going to get up and dance around the kitchen. So it's informal. You can do it right from home. You don't even have to get out of your PJs. The link will be at the bottom of the ERUUF homepage on Thanksgiving morning, and we really hope that you will join us. All our programs and services are online right now, and you can find information about all of those wonderful things on our website. Also in e-news, which comes out every Friday. Check it out. Lots of good stuff in there. This morning, the offering that is beyond our regular pledges will be given to Urban Ministries for meals for our neighbors. You can give through our website or you can send a check. And again, at that time of the offering, information will be on your screen later in the service. This morning, Reverend Jacqueline Brett leads us, and she has associates this morning, Naa-Norley Adom, and Verdine-Jones, and Jaye Vaughn. Tyra Scott returns as our soloist. We're so happy to see you, Tyra. Good morning. And our she's our soloist this morning, accompanied by Kate Lewis on the piano. Jenny Jolly, Michelle Sager, Sean Trimble are this morning's tech team, and Steve Daniels is on sound. Go team. So now let's just take a breath together and feel the goodness of life all around us, within us, an inherent, inextricable part of each of us. We center ourselves in this goodness. And we continue our service this morning with the Prelude.
Hold on just a little while longer. Hold on just a little while longer. Hold on just a little while longer. Everything's gonna be alright. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Paul and Silas were bound in jail, had no money to pay their bill. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Paul and Silas began to shout. Jail broke open and they walked out. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. The only thing I did was wrong, was stay in bondage for way too long. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. The only thing I did was right, was the day I started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Fight on just a little while longer. Fight on just a little while longer. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. The only chains that we can stand are the chains of hand in hand. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Freedom's name is mighty sweet, and soon one day we're gonna meet. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Womanist from womanish. Opposite of girlish, i.e. frivolous, irresponsible, not serious. A Black feminist or feminist of color. From the Black folk expression of mothers to female children, you act in womanish, i.e. like a woman. Usually referring to outrageous, audacious, courageous, or willful behavior. Wanting to know more and in greater depth than is considered good for one. Interested in grown-up doings, acting grown-up, being grown-up. Interchangeable with another Black folk expression, you trying to be grown. Responsible, in charge, serious.
Also a woman who loves other women, sexually and or non-sexually. Appreciates and prefers women's culture, women's emotional flexibility, values tears as natural counterbalance of laughter and a woman's strength. Sometimes loves men sexually and or non-sexually. Committed to survival and wholeness of entire people, male and female. Not a separatist, except periodically for health.
Traditionally, a universalist, as in, Mama, why are we brown, pink, and yellow, and our cousins are white, beige, and black? Answer, well, you know, the colored race is just like a flower garden, with every color flower represented. Traditionally capable, as in, Mama, I'm walking to Canada, and I'm taking you and a bunch of slaves with me. Reply, it wouldn't be the first time.
Loves music, loves dance, loves the moon.
Loves the spirit, loves love and food and roundness.
Loves struggle, loves the folk, loves herself regardless.
Womanist is to
Feminist as purple
is to lavender.
We light our chalice this morning, acknowledging love and centering those who live and love at the margins. Our hymn is I Know I Can, and Tyra will lead us as Kate plays the piano.
Though days be dark with storms and burdens weigh my heart, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. When sorrow healed my soul and burdens make me strong, though burdens wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, my brother in my song, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the journey is long, the destination is near, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So brothers, take my hand, and sisters, sing my song. When hope awaits at every turn, I know we will go on.
Writer Alice Walker introduced the term womanist to our lexicon nearly 40 years ago to
Good morning.
describe the experiences of Black women at the intersection of gender, race, class, and sexuality. Today's service will offer expressions of womanist theology and faith that has infused individual lives, communities, and the life of our nation. Jaye Vaughn, Naa-Norley Adom, and Verdine-Jones will share their experiences. Right now, we're going to hear from Kim Walker about Urban Ministries of Durham. Anything that we give in today's offering, in addition to our regular pledges, will be given to our Justice Ministry team to provide hot, nutritious meals to the shelter, as this congregation has done for over 20 years. Kim will be followed by Sarah Sanchez on behalf of the nominating committee.
Good morning. My name is Kim Walker, and I have been involved with meal preparation at Urban Ministries for about 6 or 7 years now, both as a cook at the shelter and as a member of the casserole team. Providing food for those in need is something that I had financially supported for years, but I wanted to be more engaged through action. My first experience at Urban Ministries was as the parent of a child in the middle school youth group. This first night preparing and serving dinner with a group of middle schoolers was an amazing experience, not only because of the service we were providing to the community, but also quite an experience for the kids to be so engaged in an unselfish act of social justice. After cooking a few times with the youth group, I reached out to Bo to ask about cooking more often. Not being involved with the typical groups that volunteer regularly, Bo put me on his backup list and called on me to fill the occasional vacancy. I started to bring my younger son with me. He was quite comfortable in the kitchen and became a pro at making the cheese and cracker topping for the casseroles and making and serving the lemonade. This experience was eye-opening for him, as he had had little appreciation for those who don't have a warm home and plenty of food. And importantly, he began to recognize the benefits of helping others in need. Continuing to increase my efforts, about a year and a half ago, I began doing the shopping and leading the cooking, often teaming up with Sheila Kenny to co-lead. This work has been incredibly rewarding for me and my sons, and I have missed it terribly. Feeding those in need is a key component of social justice, and I am both pleased and proud of the work that ERUUF does with urban ministries. ERUUF has not wavered on its commitment to provide meals at urban ministries during this pandemic, and the shift to catering has been expensive. It is very frustrating that we cannot commit our time to these efforts, and we therefore need to contribute our dollars. I just received a check from the state to cover costs associated with virtual learning. I am fortunate that I do not need this money, so I donated it to ERUUF in addition to a contribution I had already planned specifically for urban ministries. Homelessness and hunger are chronic problems and just two of many that have been exacerbated by this pandemic. If you have ever thought of getting involved in ERUUF's activities at urban ministries, please consider a financial donation. We will need more volunteers to contribute their time and energy once this pandemic wanes enough to safely allow our activities to resume. But for now, we need your financial assistance. Please consider helping us continue this incredibly important service to our community. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Sarah Sanchez, and I am the chairwoman of the Healthy Congregation Committee, which consists of 3 members plus the pastor. Our mission is to walk with fellow congregants through issues of conflict. A retiree, my interest in this committee comes from my background in psychology and in public school administration. The members of our committee are all trained in conflict mediation as well as in deceleration of potentially disruptive situations. We seek to encourage openness, respect, communication, healthy debate, and collaboration. Board policies define our course of action in 3 distinct areas: conflict mediation, complaint or grievance, and disruptive behavior. Proactively, we join with other ERUUF disciplines to serve as a resource for strengthening covenantal behavior in this beloved fellowship. We have placed a link on the ERUUF website with resources that can be accessed during these troubled times concerning family conflict and managing areas of conflict and disappointment. Thank you.
I am from strong Black single mothers where the one long-term marriage in the family is more of an anomaly than the norm. I am from French Creole heritage, but we don't talk about those people. I am from you've always got to work harder and be better than them. I am from deeply rooted education where reading and academic excellence were expected and anything less was unacceptable. I am from delicious Southern cooking where skinny was frowned upon and big hips and big butts were celebrated. I am from woven Christian religion where the teachings are situational and sporadic, but gay was always wrong. I am from independence, creativity, hard work, and endurance, where pride means secrets and appearance is everything.
I am married, a lesbian, a civitan. I am blessed, family-oriented, outspoken, Ohana. I am music, Blackness, photography, walking. I am cooking, blackberry cobbler, fried chicken, hot dogs. I am cycling, tennis, basketball, a friend, a nurse.
I am from afternoons with real and play cousins. I'm from the shade of a Japanese maple tree in the backyard with a book or a daydream. I am from head wraps and signature perfumes. I am from aunties who always fry kelewele or sew a dress. I am from the radio station Hot 97 where you could hear the sounds of immigrants yearning for home. I am from falling asleep hoisted on my father's shoulder while he danced at house parties. I am from hip hop and mixtapes. I am from ghost stories and superstition. I am from yards of mama cloth. I am from a name that rotates through generations.
I invite you to join me in meditation and prayer. Creative love, we give thanks for everything that upholds us, that makes our lives colorful, beautiful, meaningful. The russet and gold leaves, the deep blue November sky, the ones we love. And even though we will not gather with so many friends and family in person later this week, still, we will gather around a table in our hearts, a table where all are welcome, all are equal, all are loved, all are cherished. This morning, we hold in our hearts all who care for the most gravely ill, who show up to teach behind screens and behind masks, who recount ballots with dedication to the rule of law and the principles of fair elections. We give thanks for the unnamed multitude who time after time give the best of themselves amid the most impossible circumstances, who dig deep and give just a little bit more. We are so inspired by their strength and their courage, and we gladly send them some of our own in solidarity and support. We receive their gifts with humility and gratitude, and we lift them up with praise and gratitude as worthy examples of how we too might behave in excellent ways. This morning we hold in our hearts the family of Harriet Hooper, who died on November 6th. Kathleen Monaghan, who is at home recovering from shoulder surgery. And we celebrate with Barbara and Jim Putney, who welcome a new grandson, James William Millett, second son of their daughter Peggy and son-in-law Justin Millett. We pause for a few moments in the sounds and the silence of this beautiful day to reflect on what is most important. Today we give thanks for courageous acts of love, large and small, that make life possible for each one of us. We give thanks for the chance to give thanks, which unites us most meaningly across time and distance. May it ever be so. Blessed be. Amen. Our next song this morning is based on a Langston Hughes poem. It is song. His poem was "Song to the Dark Virgin." It was the music was written by the classical composer Florence Price, who was born in 1887 in Little Rock, Arkansas. And she was the first African-American woman to be nationally recognized as a symphonic composer. The song is sung by Tyra Scott with Kate Lewis on piano.
Would that I were a jewel, a shattered jewel, that all my shining brilliance might fall at thy feet, thou dark one. Would that I were a garment, a shimmering silken garment, that all my folds might wrap about thy body, absorb thy body, hold and hide thy body, thou dark one. Would that I were a flame, but one sharp leaping flame to annihilate thy body, thou dark one.
Spring, when my husband and I had a brief few weeks of working from home together, we found out that we were pregnant. We were cautiously optimistic with the pandemic raging and the memory of a previous early miscarriage still on our minds. At every masked prenatal appointment that yielded a rhythmic whoosh of our baby's heartbeat, I imagined my nourishing blood moving through the placenta and umbilical cord connecting me to our child. I work at a small school doing equity and justice work. I've been lucky enough to work from home, which is good because I was the most tired and nauseous I'd ever been in my life. I'd very often find myself having to turn off my camera to run and retch over the toilet. I'd struggle to keep my eyes open during a marathon of Zoom calls. As the tense spring transitioned to a tumultuous summer, there was an explosion of requests to my office to lead anti-racist book clubs, write institutional statements, lead all community vigils and workshops and affinity spaces and multicultural spaces. I know the importance of this work and I'm committed to it. And it got to the point where I was so weary of people's urgency around issues that have been urgent for my entire life and beyond. While moving through all this, I constantly worried about the child in my womb. The baby kicks I was supposed to feel were insulated because of an anterior placenta. Even though I was 5 months along, I found myself taking pregnancy tests to see if our baby was still alive, and I was on the verge of buying a Doppler machine to search for that reassuring heartbeat. Many know Fannie Lou Hamer, a civil rights activist, for also explaining her or expressing her weariness with the quotation, "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired." They might also be familiar with her work registering people to vote. What many people don't know is that her radicalization was tied to her body and motherhood. She wanted nothing more than to start a family with her husband, but was unknowingly sterilized. When the Hamers later adopted 2 little girls, one of them died of hemorrhaging, denied entry to the hospital due to Hamer's activism. Fannie Lou Hamer is an example of how much is asked of Black women. We are asked to organize, to vote, to save elections, to mother the young people in our communities in various ways. I wonder who asked Fannie Lou Hamer how it felt to fight for the redemption of a country that robbed her and other Black women and poor women of the ability to birth a future. When I was asked to reflect on womanism and womanist theology, I thought of this passage by Toni Morrison in her novel, Beloved. One of the characters, the elderly baby Suggs, leads her community of formerly enslaved Black folk during a spiritual gathering by saying, "This is flesh I'm talking about here. Flesh that needs to be loved, feet that need to rest and to dance, backs that need support, shoulders that need arms, strong arms, I'm telling you. And all my people out yonder, hear me. They do not love your neck unnoosed and straight. So love your neck. Put a hand on it, grace it, stroke it, and hold it up. And all your inside parts that they just as soon use as slop for hogs, you've got to love them. The dark, dark liver. Love it and the beating heart. Love that too. More than eyes or feet. More than lungs that have yet to draw free air. More than your life-holding womb and your life-giving parts. Hear me now, love your heart, for this is the prize. Like womanists before me, I think about the intersection of race, gender, and sexuality. I think about the role that identity plays on liberation. More than anything, I'm trying to preserve my optimism and always hear my beating heart and how it's connected to that of our child. A little living person inside of me that I might not always feel, but I need to have faith is there.
As I look out over the horizon, I shall not be afraid of knowing it is time for me to heal. Yes, the time for me to heal is now. Healing for me is the process of mending, reviving, becoming whole again. There have been many times in my life when I've healed best as I've healed others. But I did not intend to heal myself. You see, in 1996, while working at Whole Foods as a nutrition buyer, I studied with a German homeopath, Manfred Mueller, for a year at the Homeopathic College in Durham.
There I learned the healing properties of plants and minerals. I created tinctures with 6 classmates. Manfred taught homeopathy at UNC Medical School. He followed Samuel Hahnemann's belief that the homeopath's calling is to restore the sick to health, to heal as termed. Hahnemann was a German physician whose theories were accepted in 1796. Well, one day in the 90s, I went to Hawaii on sabbatical to work at an eco-resort, Kalani Hanua, on the Big Island of Hawaii. This was a childhood dream realized. At the resort, I learned Reiki from a Reiki master from California. His Reiki healed me of uterine fibroid cramping I'd had all my life. He taught me for free because he said I had healing hands. While there, I met a kahuna considered a wise man or shaman in Hawaii. He took my hands and said to me, "You have healing hands. Your touch will heal others." I later wondered, what's going on here? My thoughts went back to the Michigan Women's Music Festival I had gone to prior to Hawaii. Is this deja vu? At the music festival the year before, I had gone naked into a Native American sweat lodge to pray. After the event was over, the shaman stopped me and said, "You are a healer." Once again, I had gone to be healed and was being told I was a healer. Today, I'm thinking about Jesus in the Bible. 1 Corinthians 12, it talks about the spiritual gift of healing. Healing is a gift. To be healed is a blessing for me. I decided to use this gift by becoming a nurse. Nurses say healing is the restoration of structure and function of injured diseased tissues. I want to help patients transcend suffering. I've learned I heal repeatedly over and over again. It is not a one-time event. It's a transformation time for me in which I can create Ruga. Ruga is the Danish word for creating a cozy atmosphere. My healing becomes the art, cozying up with my soul. I welcome these transformations to repair my wounds.
Throughout history, women have united to fight for social, economic, and political equality. While multicultural sisterhood is real, Black women share unique experiences that women of differing ethnicities do not. Despite empathy and allyship, Black women needed safe spaces to appreciate the Black journey of all Black Indigenous people of color, thus the birth of womanism. The creation of sisterhood and safe spaces for Black women to share experiences support each other, encourage personal and professional development, and just be are prevalent in the Black household, primarily around the kitchen table. There you will often find generations of Black women sharing pearls of wisdom and cautionary tales in an attempt to teach the younger generations of women how to love themselves, understand the essence of who they are and were created to be, and the power of the Black family unit. Many of those kitchen table discussions centered around finding the right man, my Prince Charming, but also understanding that all men are no good, will never be faithful, and domestic violence is inevitable. I understood at a very young age that a two-parent Black family household was nice, but not likely. And in the rare occurrences, she was putting up with nonsense behind closed doors just to keep a man and save face. You should always have your own and live as if he left tomorrow, you and your child could survive. That was something my mother instilled in me and has remained with me to this day. I was determined to be the exception, so at a very young age, I married and the birth of my daughter quickly followed. After about a year of marriage, and as if to prove the women in my family right, he lived up to and far beyond everything I was told he would. I became the statistic the women in my family said I would be, an abused single mother, just like most of them had been. I spent years focusing on motherhood and professional success and ignoring my attraction to women. Lesbianism was so taboo that the notion of love is love, especially if that someone was of the same sex, was not worthy of discussion. So I didn't understand it, and I had no one to talk to. I struggled for many years to reconcile my many identities: Black woman, single parent, career-focused professional, good daughter, and lesbian. It wasn't until I met my wife that I learned that I could marry all of those identities and still be worthy of unconditional love. My wife, Lisa, taught me that being in love with her does not mean hating men. I can revere the Black man while appreciating and recognizing the strength of a Black woman. Being a womanist means peeling back the many layers of this patriarchal society and examining them from our unique perspective. In order for there to be progress in our nation, Black women must be heard and seen. As evidenced by the 2020 elections, Black women proved once again to be an integral part of the well-being of their families, their communities, and the nation as a whole. Shirley Chisholm was the first Black woman elected to Congress in 1968, and the first woman and African-American to seek the nomination for President of the United States from one of the two major political parties in 1972. She famously said, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair." Over the past decade, Black women have brought folding chairs across the country and have comfortably placed our feet under the tables of decision makers, game changers, and those who have the power to make systemic change in our Black communities. We've moved far beyond the folding chair to having a wing-back executive chair in the White House with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. I am a womanist, glowing in my Blackness. I am a wife, a mother, a spiritual being, strong in my conviction, and vulnerable to continuous growth. Not just for me, but for all Black Indigenous people of color that navigate the winding road of life paved by our ancestors.
Yesterday at about 5 a.m. in the morning, I felt myself awakened by my grandmothers, both of who crossed over as ancestors many decades ago. So I got up and attuned my being and listening to their presence. And so I give thanks to my grandmothers for awakening me. Thank you, Mariah Lillian. And thank you, Portia. I invite your presence to be with us here in this moment. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. I discovered from my mother a few years ago that I almost grew up not in Brooklyn, but in South Carolina. Brought there when I was born because there was no other child care, affordable or otherwise, available to my working parents who were living in New York. My mother deposited me into her mother's arms, which I suppose made perfect sense for a daughter to do when she had nowhere else to go. But within 6 months, my mother realized that her mother was unable to take care of me because she and my sharecropper grandfather had barely enough to care for their 4 children and themselves. So my parents traveled almost 100 miles to my father's mother, a recent widow with 7 children of her own, who welcomed me as one more. And there I remained for a year until my parents, alarmed that their toddler did not know who they were when they came to visit, scooped me up and brought me back to Brooklyn and somehow managed to figure out the childcare situation. My grandmother, Mariah Lillian, a quiet woman who smiled softly, lived a beleaguered existence as a sharecropper's wife in one of the poor rural hamlets just out beyond Myrtle Beach, a place quietly evil and hard to live in for Black people. And if you were to go there today, you would find this still to be true. Mariah Lillian, by all appearances, docile and so quiet-spoken I can barely recall the sound of her voice, lived a difficult life. But in her quietness, she had assisted my mother in concocting a plan to leave the sharecropping fields for New York, unbeknownst to my grandfather John, who was out working in those fields. Lillian, as most people called her, wanted something more from my mother, and so this small act of subversion toward the man who owned the fields and her very own husband was a gift of possibility to my mother and ultimately to me. My paternal grandmother, Portia, and the generations that were her family lived in Paxville, South Carolina, in Clarendon County, where the evils of white supremacy ideology reigned, and which my sister and I were shielded from during our visits over the summer for, once again, my parents' only solution to childcare. During a year that my sister and I still to this day refer to as Snake Summer, a rattlesnake got into my grandmother's hog pen, and she immediately got her shotgun and shot the rattlesnake more than once until it was dead. She did the same thing on another day when one appeared right outside the hen house. And when a snake appeared while she was in her garden one afternoon, she grabbed her gardening hoe and chopped it to bits. And when my cousin and I disobeyed her and built a tree house in the woods against her wishes, she got her axe and within minutes chopped that to bits too. Portia was powerful and strong, capable and independent. It seemed to me there was little she could not do. Though as I think about the realities of her life, I know I am wrong. But as a little girl, this seemed true to me, and that was important. When I went to visit her as an adult years later, she in her early 80s, I discovered she was actually a small-statured woman, but nonetheless strong and proud. These two women who almost raised me forever influenced my life. Both committed to those they loved, one strong-willed and ready to defend what was hers to defend, and the other whose quiet acts of subversion gave life to her daughter, who would give life to her daughters, who would give life to their sons. When I am hard-pressed by anything, my memories of my grandmothers fill me with courage and vision I have needed to go on. These simple, rural women deeply understood how to make a way out of no way, a phrase I grew up hearing all the time and only understood later to be so much more than the making of something out of nothing, but instead as deliberate and powerful co-creative acts of faith in the possibilities that exist in this present moment, possibilities seen and unseen, and in the moments beyond it. A deeply spiritual faith that is not about a singular religious belief, but is bound in love that is claimed in the midst of seeming impossibilities. Love that is sometimes hard, but as Naa quoted the character Baby Suggs from the novel Beloved, a love that is rooted in the pain and joy of knowing that this flesh needs to be loved. And more than anything, this beat and beating heart must love itself as its greatest gift. I was a young woman when I first read Alice Walker's definition of womanist, and I was actually startled by a profound recognition of myself in it all. Not only because my mother had constantly cautioned me when I was a girl to stop acting grown, but because, as with no other word, for the first time I saw described my experiences and meaning-making in the world, the very core of my grandmother's, my mother, and myself, even the self I didn't know how to claim yet. Womanist is how we on the furthest margin know our world, love ourselves, our families, communities, and this nation. It is how we have raised babies, even other people's babies, and also built movements. We have long understood that what we most want is beyond individualistic ambition or gain, but the more important care and upliftment of family and community while seeking freedom and justice for all in this nation. And I am offering you no superficial cliches here. Whether it has been for voting rights, anti-lynching laws, civil or workers' rights, Black women have experientially understood that the ultimate demand is for human rights and liberation for us all. Even the Black Lives Matter movement, begun by Black women, is rooted in the contention that none of us is free when Black people aren't free. And for all of us to matter, Black lives have got to matter. Womanist theologian Kelly Brown Douglas, who holds the Bill and Judith Moyer's Chair of Theology at Union Seminary in New York, recently said that it is from those people on the furthest margins that we must begin to understand what justice looks like. When the people who have not experienced justice say, "That looks like justice," then we know we are on the arc that bends toward justice. If we don't start with those voices and the reality of the marginalized, then we begin to confuse justice with privilege. She goes on to say that when we're talking about justice, we are not talking about trying to gain the privileges that others have, the patriarchal privilege that men have, or the white privilege that those raised white have, or the heterosexual privilege that non-LGBTQ plus persons have. We're talking about dismantling the systems and structures that have granted such unjust privilege and undue penalty. We're talking about moving toward a freedom, a wholeness where everybody can be respected as the sacred children of God that they are. It's not a fight against white people or anybody else. It's just a fight for justice. And this is no small request in a nation steeped in foul contradiction, having proposed a lofty democratic vision at its founding with white supremacy embedded in its structure and systems. Many say we have not seen as much division in our nation as we're experiencing at this time since the Civil War. The Reverend Kelly Douglas says that this country is actually at war with its own soul. And what we are actually seeing is our engaging in a 21st century version of the Civil War, where the nation has to make a decision about who it wants to become. In other words, what possibility do we want to live into? Not just in the future, but in this present moment. Over the past week, much discussion has been held about the role of Black women in the recent election. Most obviously, of course, that Kamala Harris is the first Black and Asian American woman elected Vice President of the United States. But I would be remiss if I did not say the names of her forebears who paved the way in the Democratic Party. Congresswoman Shirley Anita Chisholm, who was the first woman of any race to ever run for president in a major party. She did so in 1972 and received 152 delegate votes at the Democratic National Convention. And there was also Ambassador Carol Moseley Braun, who ran as a Democrat in 2004. In addition to Vice President-elect Harris, the other big story has been the efforts of Black women around the country who, it has been repeatedly acknowledged, turned the tide of the national election, particularly as close as it was. Think Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, among other places. Think the continual work of Stacey Abrams in Georgia and how activist Alicia Garza, a co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, over the past 2 years has been organizing younger voters through the Black Futures Lab she's founded, Living into Possibility. And not for nothing, but here's a shout out to Nicole Presley, the Black woman who has been the national organizer for the UU The Vote campaign, which has been working in partnership with broader justice movements around the country. These women, as well as others, are now focusing their energies and mobilizing their efforts on the possibility that is Georgia. But no matter what happens there in January, what I do know is that the work of these women and the efforts of Black women on behalf of love and justice across this nation shall continue, whether it's in the life-giving gestures of loving the microcosm of a family or the complexities of leading this nation. As I consider the spiritual depths of being a Black woman who lives and moves in the ever-present and creative space of possibility, and the depths of being in Black women throughout my life, including the Black women in this beloved community, I leave you with these words of the great educator and civil and women's rights activist Mary McLeod Bethune, who nearly a century ago said, "Herein dwells the still small voice to which my spiritual self is attuned. I find also that I am equally sensitive to any outside obstructions that would mar this harmony or destroy this fortress. These inspirational vibrations are known to me as my inner voice. Therefore, as I come face to face with tremendous problems and issues, I am geared immediately to these spiritual vibrations, and they never fail me. The response is satisfying, though the demand may call for great courage and sacrifice. May all of us, each person in this beloved community, hold on and continue ever on while listening to the voices of those on the furthest margin to begin to understand what justice looks like, and daring to live into the clear possibility of it unceasingly with courage and sacrifice. This is how it's done, my friends. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so. Each week, we as a beloved community gather together in all of our different places, joining our hearts and joining our spirits, and considering not only this community, but also the community beyond our walls. And so we take up an offering each week in support of the work we do both here at ERUUF and out in the community. Our offering this morning will go to serve urban ministries and the meals that we give there. You should see a link in the chat box that would tell you how to give. You may click on that link or go to our website and give there, or you may simply send us a check. Please, if you do that, write Urban Ministries in the chat box. Our final song today is a gospel medley with Tyra singing and Kate on piano.
Oh, I've got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Oh, I've got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Oh, I've got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Be alright, be alright, be alright. Oh, the Lord, He done told me everything's gonna be alright. Oh, my Lord, He done told me everything's gonna be alright. Oh, my Lord, He done told me everything's gonna be alright. Be alright, be alright, be alright. We need power, power, Lord, power, power, Lord. We need power, holy power, power to live right, power to talk right. We need power, so much power. We need power, so much power. We need power, so much power. Hey, hey, hey. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Since I laid my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Since I laid my burden down. Friends don't treat me like they used to. Since I laid my burden down. Friends don't treat me like they used to. Since I laid my burden down. Oh, I walk lighter, so much lighter. Since I laid my burden down. I work lighter, so much lighter. Since I laid my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Since I laid my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Since I laid my burden down.
Thank you, Tyra. Oh, how I miss you. We give thanks. We give thanks for this day. We give thanks for the offering of this wonderful community. Our closing words this morning are by Alice Walker. The nature of this flower is to bloom, with paintings by Kehinde Wiley. The nature of this flower is to bloom. Rebellious, living against the elemental crush. A song of color, blooming for deserving eyes, blooming gloriously for itself. Go in peace, my friends. Go in love, and may you live into possibility. Amen.